Hi there and welcome to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this video, I'll be working with what's left of my Autumn to Remember workshop kit by Stampin' Up! To create a double page layout. I've been using this collection for a while now, and as you can see, I'm down to the scraps. Just a few one-sided pattern papers, which were designed for the base of the layout templates. I have a few stickers, some paperboard pieces, and a handful of the die cut punch outs. I'm really happy with how much I've used up so far. If you've been following along with my past videos, you might know I haven't followed a layout template from the kit yet. Well, for today's layout, I'm finally going to use one of those templates, but with my own twist to make it unique. In addition to the pattern papers, I'll also be using the Umbrella Days Stampin' die set, as well as the Peaceful Evergreen bundle to create some fun embellishments. Now let me show you the pictures I'll be documenting today. I have 7 photos, which is a few more than the template calls for, but it's totally fine. Part of the creative process is adapting templates and sketches to work with what you have. All right, so let me clear this away and I'll get started building the foundation to my layout. I'm still working on getting the lighting right on my desk, and I didn't realize how dark this part of the video is, so I'm very sorry about that. But as I mentioned, I'm following this template here. I didn't have quite the right amount of papers, so I dug through my DSP. It's from the To Market collection. It actually has flowers on the other side, but I thought the wood grain would complement my photos really nicely. I'm going to swap out the wood grain for the brown and pink check pattern paper from the template. I'll use this stripe plate paper in place of the tree pattern, and I have just enough of this old olive green pattern paper to use in the middle. Then I've got my die cuts ready to go as well. I wanted to show you how easy the templates are to follow. For example, here you can see the brown check paper is labeled 2A and the other side is labeled 2D. So if you go by the cutting guide and find 2A and 2D, it tells you the size is 6 by 12. I'll go ahead and cut that paper in half at the 6-inch mark. Next, I've got the tree pattern paper, which is 2C and 2F. The template says I need an 8 by 5-inch piece and an 8 by 7-inch piece. Now the paper I'm substituting for this isn't quite big enough. It's only 9.5 by 9 3/4, but I really want to use this whole piece up. So here's my plan. The blueprint shows on one side is bigger than the other. So I'll cut it at 5 3/4. That way I'll have a 3 3/4 inch piece on the left side, and both pieces will be 9 3/4 inches tall. Now for my green paper, I'm just going to cut it in half. So each piece will be 2 by 12. The template calls for these pieces to be quite a bit larger, but since my paper isn't large enough, I'll adjust the size to fit with what I have. Now that all my pieces are cut to size, I'm going to lay everything out to see how it looks together on my cardstock base. For this layout, I'm using basic white as my foundation layer. I prefer to use white because it gives me a clean slate to work with, and it pairs well with almost any color. Next, I'll bring in the die cut pieces and place them where the design suggests. Then I'll add my photos back in and start arranging them. The template calls for a 4 by 6 photo and a 4 by 4 on the left side, and then a 4 by 6 and 2 3 by 3 photos on the right. But I have more photos, and I've printed them in different sizes. I've got 2 pictures that are 4 by 6, one in landscape and one in portrait. I have one about 4 by 4, and the other 3 are around 4 by 3, one of which is printed portrait style. That includes the white border for all of them. I'm still figuring out the best configuration for my photo placement, but for now, this is where they're sitting. I definitely want to use this picture of the last roll of sod. It's pretty significant. I'll place it here for now, but I'm sure it'll move again. As you can see, I'm pretty close to the pre-designed layout. But when it comes to the embellishments and title placement, I'm not going to follow it exactly. I'll create an embellishment cluster in the area where the title is shown, but I'm thinking my title will go at the top of the spread instead. Before I get too far with that though, I'm going to ink all the edges of my papers with pecan pie ink. As I'm creating this layout today, documenting pictures taken in June of 2021, it's actually snowing like crazy outside. I do enjoy winter here in Alberta, but if I'm being honest, I'm definitely more of a fan of the summer months. It's hard to believe that 4 years has passed since these pictures were taken. We really struggled with landscaping our property for years. Every spring, we would plant seed, work on the land, and just hope and pray that our hard work wouldn't get washed away by the runoff every spring. Our property is lower than our neighbors, so every spring the water would pool on our land, wash away, or kill anything we've worked on the year before. So in the summer of 2020, when there wasn't much else to do, we decided to hire a contractor to dig us a pond and redirect all the water from our neighbors into it. And it worked. We stayed dry all that summer. And by the spring of 2021, we finally decided it was time to lay down some sod. So 20,000 square feet of sod, and 3 days later, we were done. And now we finally have a yard we can actually enjoy. These die cut pieces are pretty white, so I'm going to use some ink to tone them down a bit and add some texture. It will help them blend in better with the theme of the layout. So the left side of the layout shows the before. Basically, it's just dirt. And the right side will be like the after. It really highlights the transformation we went through. From all that hard work to finally having a yard we can enjoy. By the end of each day, we were so dirty and dusty, so it makes sense to dirty up these pages a bit. So this might seem like a weird thing to document, but it was a huge amount of work and a big struggle for us. I really enjoy scrapbooking the everyday moments, and I think it's important to document those, not just the holidays or the special events. This is something I don't want to forget. I've attached all my layers down and I'm pretty happy with where the pictures are placed. But looking at the photos on the white die cuts, I feel like they just could use an extra mat to help them pop a bit more. First, I'll try crushed curry as a mat. It's in the striped paper I used, and there is a bit of yellow in the pictures, but honestly, it doesn't do much for the photos. Now I'll try old olive. Even though there is a lot of green in the photos, I feel like it's just too much green, and I'm really not a fan. So let's try early espresso. There is a lot of brown in the layout, and I do really like that. It helps the green pop and draws your eye to the photos. Let's try this on the other side too. Yep, I like that. So I'll cut them down to the right size and I'll be right back. I've attached the pictures to the trimmed mats, and here I wanted to show you, I decided to mat these two photos on one big mat instead of two individuals. Now I'm going to use my Barely Art glue and attach the die cut to the layout. In the pre-designed layout, they show a small space between the pieces, but I want mine to be butted up right against each other to make it look like one continuous piece. I did the same with the green patterned paper as well. I'll just go around and add a bit of glue here and there, and that should do it. For the title, I didn't really have stamps or stickers that fit with my theme, So again, I turned to my Cricut and created one that says Sod Tales, Our Lawn Transformation. So I put some dots on the title, and I actually got this idea from Chelsea. She added a lot of dots together at the bottom of each one of her letters and then gradually added fewer as she moved up the letter. So I'll be doing the same. I used my Stampin' Right marker in Always Artichoke to add these dots. And I thought it would be perfect to make it look like, grass. I actually worked on the title off of camera. I saved a few letters to finish up on camera so I could show you what I meant. Here's a close-up of the finished result so you can see how it turned out. I think it looks really cute. Once I decide the final resting spot, I plan to use dimensional dots to attach the title to the layout. So let's start working on some embellishments. I'm using a new stamp bundle that was released on November 5th as part of the online exclusives called Umbrella Days. It is super cute, but today I'm just focusing on the die cuts. One of the die cuts creates grass, and I thought it would be perfect for this layout. I want to create a continuous strip of lawn that stretches across both pages. I'll go ahead and cut this out off camera and I'll be right back. I used Old Olive for my cardstock color. The piece on the right is 11 inches long and the strip on the left is 8 inches. I love how they turned out. Such a great addition to my layout. It'll make a great spot for my photos to sit and for my embellishment clusters to come together. I really wanted to use these paperboard trees that came with the workshop kit. They're full wood grain and I think they would fit perfectly in with my design. I'm going to spread them around the layout and I'll place 2 up here by the title and 1 over here on the left to kick off this embellishment cluster. There's a lot of trees around in our pictures, so adding tree elements just makes sense. I used my Cricut to cut out the shovel and pile of dirt. It might work over here, but I'm not sure yet. I'll leave it here for now, but truth be told, I'm not really loving it. So it's probably not going to stick around this layout. So in my pictures, there's a wheelbarrow. And in the Garden Meadow stamp and die set, there's a wheelbarrow too. But it's full of flowers, which I don't want on this layout. To make it work, I'll use the stamp, but instead of masking off the area I don't want inked, I'm going to grab a marker and color directly onto the stamp. This way, I have more control over the part of the stamp that gets inked up, just like this. There isn't really an exact science to it, just color the lines that you want shown and leave the ink off of all the other lines that you don't. Then I simply drew a line from one side of the wheelbarrow to the other. Actually, I found it easier to use the die cut first, then fussy cut out the flowers. Once I had completed that, it was really easy to find the line to draw across. And that's it. I think it looks pretty cute. I'll use my real red Stampin' marker to color it in. This matches the red wheelbarrow in the photos and also ties in the red sweatshirt that my son is wearing. Not that you can see him much. He's kind of cut off in the picture. Anyway, I'm really not great at coloring, so I'm gonna do most of it off camera. I am gonna use my blender pen afterwards to blend in any of the marker lines. So here's my finished wheelbarrow, but it definitely needs some dirt. From that same stamp bundle, there's a die cut that to me looks like a pile of dirt. So I used crumb cake cardstock and cut that out. It is a bit wider than the wheelbarrow, so after I attach it, I'll just snip off the extras on each side. And now my wheelbarrow has dirt in it. I really like how this turned out. Before I get too much further on my embellishments, I want to set aside a spot for my journaling. The open area on the lower right, under the 4x6 picture, will work perfectly for that. I have an older paper collection from Stampin' Up in my stash called The Right Stuff. It's mostly journal cards with just a few pattern papers, but there are some great options in here. I tried out a few different options in this space, but nothing actually felt really good. There were some that were just too big. Some I liked, but you know, I'm kind of just going to settle on this one maybe for now, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to move the wheelbarrow over to the right-hand side here because I just don't really like the way it looks in front of the striped paper. To give the dirt on the wheelbarrow a little texture, I'm going to add some pecan pie ink to the edge. This layout needs more trees. Has anyone used the Peaceful Evergreen stamp and die set yet? This has quickly become one of my favorites. I'll go ahead and create some trees off camera, and I'll be right back. So I stamped a few trees using Old Olive and Mossy Meadow ink, using the 2 different sizes of trees. I thought I could build a little forest behind the wheelbarrow here on the right, and I'm really liking the little scene I'm creating. I'll add another cluster of trees to the left-hand side, combining the stamp trees with the paperboard ones. Even though the stamp trees are a bit bigger than the wood grain trees, I'm totally fine with that. Trees come in all different sizes, right? Maybe these ones are just standing in front of the others. I'm happy with my 2 little forest clusters. I'm looking at this and I think it could use a little bit of red. So I dug through my stamps and stickers and found an older set from close to my heart called Boys at Play. There's a sentiment here that reads, "A little dirt never hurt," which I think is perfect for this layout. I'll stamp it out with real red ink and fussy cut it out. So I finished fussy cutting that out off camera, and I'll just place it here for now. I decided to move my title so both pieces are now on the right-hand side. I wasn't feeling it separated on the 2 pages, and now it feels a lot more balanced. I also want to carry the embellishments across the top of the die cut squares. I used smaller tree clusters from the Peaceful Evergreen stamp set, stamping and die cutting 2 sets, one again in Old Olive and one in Mossy Meadow. All of this was stamped on just basic white cardstock. I love the idea of repeating the same little scene I created at the bottom, bringing it up to tie everything together. I've still created a visual triangle with my 3 embellishment clusters. I've just spread out a bit more on the top now, but it still will help draw your eye around all the photos. I still have a few of the grass strips from before, so I'm going to place them around this area too. Part of the process is moving all the pieces around the page, finding the perfect spot for each one, and making sure that it looks just right for me as the creator. Now I want to add a pop of red in the title area. I was having a bit of trouble figuring out what to add, but then I remembered there is a garden hose in the Gnomes for Summer Stampin' die set from close to my heart, which was actually sold by Stamping Up. I think the garden hose is cute and works really well with the theme of my layout. I'll place it here for now, but I'm feeling like the scale might be a bit off. I'm pretty happy with the placement of my photos and most of my embellishment clusters, so I'm going to attach everything off camera. But I do want to say I'm still swapping out my journal tag. I keep changing it back. I can't make up my mind. This one seems to fill the space a little bit better. Anyway, I will attach everything off camera and I'll be right back. I've attached everything to my layout now. Some elements I popped up with foam dimensionals to add some extra interest and shadow. Now I'm feeling like I'm missing a little faux wood element on the right-hand side. I found the best life tag, so I'll try and place it here and see what it looks like. Let's also add some grass to the wheelbarrow. I have this little piece here and I think it's gonna look so cute. So I also want to add a little more stamping onto this layout. I'm thinking about using this little stamp here. To me, it looks like some dirt. It would make a really cute addition to kind of this grassy area down below. So I've stamped it onto a scrap piece of cardstock just to see what it would look like before I fully commit to the layout. I think I really like that. It's cute. Looking at the layout, I feel like these two pictures seem to be a little lost. So I'm going to map them on the early Espresso cardstock like the others. This should help them stand out more on the page. I'm also going to make it one big mat, just like I did on the smaller 3x4 photos on the right-hand side. This will help tie everything together and make the photos feel like they have more presence on the layout. To create a dual photo mat, I will first attach the two photos where I want them to sit on the cardstock. Once they are positioned, I'll trim the cardstock around the photos to give them a unified look while keeping the photos separate. To keep the photos from feeling separated from the rest of the layout, I'll place the dual photo mat over the grass here, tucking part of it underneath this tree. I like it when my elements overlap like this. It helps create a more cohesive look and makes everything feel connected. I decided to go ahead with the stamped dirt using pecan pie underneath the grassy area on each side of my layout. I'll mask off all the areas I don't want stamped, and I'll go ahead and complete that on both sides. I'm just going to finish the rest of this off camera. I want to repeat the paperboard element in this cluster on the right. I've tried a few options. First, I experimented with this circle that says "Oh Blessed Day." It doesn't quite feel right, even after backing it on white cardstock. Then I thought about moving a tree over here to this area to echo the design, but that didn't quite work either. Finally, I had a light bulb moment. Look at all the rocks in the picture. We are lining the bottom of the berm that was dug at the same time as our pond with rocks. So then I remembered there's a die cut set in the Utterly Adorable collection, which has 3 different sized rocks in it. Why not cut out a couple of rock shapes? I had one paperboard piece that was just about the right size, so wish me luck. And it worked! Look at how perfect it cut out. It was a bit tricky though. I did lose a small piece from the rock, but I covered it with a little rock shape I cut out of early Espresso cardstock. I absolutely love how it turned out, and it's just what the layout needed. I even cut out a few more rocks to add a touch of brown throughout the other embellishment clusters. The rocks really bring the whole thing together. The trees here aren't showing up well against the stripe pattern paper, so I pulled out one of my circle journaling tags I had from earlier. This one has a white background with a yellow edge around it, and it made me think of the sun. So I'll place it behind these trees, and that is exactly what the layout needed. But now I need to repeat that color in the other clusters. So I found this yellow journaling tag, but I don't like the scalloped edges. So I'll trim them off to make it more of a rectangular shape. Perfect. I'm much happier with this. I think it ties everything together. Now I want to bring that crushed curry yellow to the top of the layout. So while I think about that, I'll ink up the edges of this circle and my journal tag and spend some time off camera to write out my journaling. While working on my journaling, I stamped, cut out, and colored the tools with the Stampin' Write yellow marker. I used a small shovel and rake from the Garden Meadow Stampin' die set. Although these were intended to be a garden spade and hand rake, I thought it worked perfectly as yard-sized tools in this layout. They fit just right into the cluster and add the perfect amount of detail in the scene I'm creating. For a final touch, I'm adding some candy dots in Mossy Meadow and crushed curry around my embellishment clusters. Just 3 dots in each cluster to give it an extra little pop. I'm so thrilled with how this layout turned out. When I finally decided to document these pictures, I wasn't sure what I was going to use for embellishments. There's not a lot of grass-themed elements out there, but I was able to find items within the photos themselves to create this fun double page spread. Here's a close-up of my embellishment clusters. Look at all the rolls of sod in the picture. I love how the little details came together. For more close-ups of this layout and others I've created, head over to my Instagram page, Ink and Paper Crafting with Nicole, where you can see still shots of all my work. To recap, I'll bring back the picture of the pre-designed layout I followed to create this 2-page spread. Using this as a guide, I was able to take inspiration from the design, but I also made it my own by adapting the photo placement, embellishments, and adding unique elements to reflect the theme of my lawn transformation. It's also fun to take a template and give it your own personal twist. I'm thrilled with how this all turned out. I hope you found this process video inspiring and helpful. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you could give it a thumbs up. That little gesture goes a long way in helping me build my following here on YouTube. I truly appreciate your support. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I release a new video every week, and by subscribing, you won't miss any upcoming projects or tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. I know this one was a long one, so I really appreciate you sticking with me today. Here's a video YouTube thinks you will enjoy. Happy crafting! Bye!